All right, Saad, how you doing?
Life is good.
Stomp Strong Show number 16. We took a week off last week.
Yes.
It's been a weird week for you,
Right.
I know, and it's been an odd week for me too. I got a lot of things confirmed this week I was wondering about, and my bike went down, so I haven't been able to ride for the last maybe 4 days, and that's been horrible on my psyche because that's all I'm doing for fitness, and I started going like 2-a-days.
Right.
And I know you're doing full-time, sometimes 3 times a day training for BJJ tournaments coming up, and we decided to try to skip a day and get it done on Saturday instead of Sunday. So we're filming on Saturday today instead of Sunday, which is our normal. And Saad's a worn down shell of himself.
Sure.
A month ago, or this is now the 3rd week we know you're going to do this tournament.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's been 3 days a week, 3 times a day training, 7 days a week, right?
Yeah. Pretty much 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Rarely do I get an off day.
Yeah. How's that going?
Man, it's going good. Because the challenge is you want to train, hard, but you want to train smart. Because if I'm 52 years old, so I can't just push it like a 20-year-old does because my body just doesn't recover in time. And when I take injuries, it takes longer to heal. So I got a great team of guys that are working with me. And then it's me, Dayton, and Jonathan. We're going to Florida to compete in the Pan American Championships. And it's such a cool thing because it's normally done in Irvine, California in March every year. And the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation, in February, they just came out and canceled all jiu-jitsu tournaments for the year. They're like, okay, there ain't gonna be no tournaments. And then, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, they come out and say, okay, we're gonna do a Pan American Championship that we canceled, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it in October, and we're gonna do it right outside Orlando, Florida. Because you couldn't do it in California. You can't do anything in California.
Right.
Unless you're Nancy Pelosi, you get your hair done. Other than that, you ain't gonna do anything in California.
That did happen. Yeah.
So, because all those schools are closed. So we went, and so I just immediately signed up. And it's very exciting because, I'm getting ready for the tournament, but it's a difference between warriors and athletes. And what I mean by that is athletes, all the circumstances have to be right. They have a training camp leading up to the event. They've prepared months in advance. And that's how people usually do the Pan American Championships every year. They're preparing in a training camp 5-6 months in advance to get ready for this tournament. To have their weight, their nutrition, their conditioning, everything's on point. Where this year, it's like, oh no, it's as you are pretty much. You got a month and a half notice. Let's go fight, and we'll see who's ready. Because athletes rarely have to be put in this position. Where warriors, they stand up and fight. One of my best friends, Chico Santiago, and this is in the early days of MMA. He went, and he's a retired Navy senior chief, straight warrior, black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he went to an event, an MMA event. He was corner one of his students. And this is before the athletic commissions got involved and before the state, started poking their nose in MMA. These are the early days of MMA. And the promoter went to Chico and said, Chico, I'm missing a heavyweight fighter. Could you take the fight tonight? So Chico is there.
No way.
This is not a day's notice. This is an hour's notice. You're at the event.
He's a heavyweight.
As a spectator.
Let me ask you this. He's a heavyweight.
He's a heavyweight.
What's he weighing in?
I know.
But he's always in shape, I guess?
Yeah, he's always in shape. And so Chico's like, well, if you can get me a mouth guard, I'll fight him. And Chico got up and fought him that night in the cage and beat the dude.
No shit.
To come out of the audience on a fight, that's just you look at today's UFC and you get fighters declining fights on a couple weeks' notice. They're like, oh no, I won't be ready for that. And then you got my friend who's a straight warrior. He's like, oh, you need somebody to fight? Okay, I'll fight right now. I don't need notice. I don't need a training camp. I'll go right now. We'll drop gloves and go. So it's a different mentality, and so I think I'm excited about that in the Pan American Championships because a lot of the athletes don't have the training camp they normally have. It's like, okay, if you want it, let's fight for the championship. Let's go.
So, like, you're talking about, like, these tournament jiu-jitsu guys who are used to prepping and training a year for a tournament or 6 months or whatever, might have thought they were off their game, and if they weren't competing through like they were going to, maybe they didn't keep their schedule up.
Right.
And it's going to be better for you guys that weren't necessarily planning on it anyways, that are ready just to drop time and see what's up.
Yeah, because...
So there's a little more like a freelance look to this.
Yeah, because, like, the Warriors, they'll fight you anywhere, anytime, any place.
But I mean, that other guy would probably say the same thing about being a warrior, right? He would just like to be more prepared for 6 months.
Yeah, we'd all like to be more prepared.
Right.
And then,
right.
And then I've noticed some big names have not signed up because they're not prepared and they're not willing to take that chance.
Interesting.
To take that loss.
So you can already see that. So okay, so the losses are happening, or wins are happening either way.
Yeah.
The Pan Ams are happening.
Right.
There's only 3 months to make a decision.
No, there was a month and a half to make a decision.
So you've been training for how long? 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
So you got a month and a half to get to it from the time you knew. Month and a half to go. Fight. Boom. So crazy. How's it? It's got to be exciting.
Oh yeah, I love it.
How does it like make you feel as an old man?
Man, I love to compete. You know, like the best I've ever done in the Pan Ams or the World is to get third place. Last year I got third in the Pan Ams, and I got third in the Master Worlds in my weight class and third in the absolute division. But, you know, my goal, my dream, you know, is I want to win gold in the Pan Ams because it's like one of the most prestigious tournaments in the world, and it's a huge tournament. And so I'm going to go there and give it my best shot. And I know there's going to be guys that are going to be hungry, they're going to be there, they're going to give it their best shot. We'll see what happens.
Oh, dude, just have a blast. I mean, you guys are training so hard right now. It's insane. I mean, you're doing 3 a day. So you're getting up at 5 in the morning, meeting there at 5 sometimes, meeting there a little bit later than that. I'm watching the roll call. I'm watching people text you, hey, we're here. Where are you?
Yeah, sure.
It's coming back and forth. Like, hey, we're here. What's up?
Yeah, Jonathan is training hard. Dayton is training hard.
These guys all have jobs, by the way. They're all working full time while they're doing this. They're coming in on their lunches. They're coming in after dinner. They're coming in after they wait. They're not sleeping right now. Everyone's really doing insanity right now. Yeah. It's fun to see from the side because I'm sort of doing my own version of it now because I can't roll with you guys. So but the thing about the tournament that's so interesting is it draws everybody in, man. I was talking about coming out and flying out, and you guys and you can't do it because of the numbers. Right. But it just seems to have pulled the whole school in a little bit. Like other people are messaging in on the boards a little bit more, and
because and then we got a couple other tournaments. Dayton is competing in the Austin Open on I think September 19th. Chapa, one of the black belts that trains with me, he's got a super fight here in San Antonio. I think that's on September 19th. But the tournament that Dayton's doing in Austin is the same weekend, so I think Chapa's super fight is on Friday. So, you know, we're training for these events, we're getting our guys ready, and, you know, there's a lot of camaraderie in it, you know, it's a lot of hard work, but, you know, like you're doing it with your buddies, and it's like, okay, let's do this, let's make this happen.
That's
and then
awesome.
I'm super excited. In addition to the tournament, my son, because I'm driving there, I really don't care to fly that much, so he's like, Dad, I'm gonna take a week off of work, and I'm gonna ride with you. So
no way.
We're gonna get in the little Toyota Prius, and we're gonna drive from San Antonio, Texas, to Orlando, Florida. And we're gonna see some friends along the way, and you know, because my son, he graduated from the University of Florida, so he's got a lot of friends there. He wants to see too. Yeah. But I get to hang out with my kid. And
oh my God, that's like the best. Yeah. That's the best trip ever, really.
Sure, yeah.
And that part's impromptu.
Oh yeah.
That's just a little bit of icing. You didn't tell me nothing about that.
Yeah.
I know that made your whole entire decade.
Yeah,
I mean, that's like, a week off with my son in the car.
I get all this time with my kid. And
me and my dad did that trip once. Actually, it was a crazy trip. He had it was a Subaru Justy.
Nice.
Do you remember how small they were? It was a 3-cylinder car. My dad was like 6'2". I was at least 6'4".
Yeah.
I was like 12, 13. So I was like 300, maybe 320. My dad's like 270, 275, 250, around there.
Yeah.
We're in this Justy. We're flying down the highway, and the craziest story ever. A bunch of weird shit.
Right.
But bottom line, we got hit with a tractor tire tread, and we were surrounded by all these tractor tires, and this retread came off the tire, smacks the front of the car, blows off the windshield. My dad looks at me and goes, "Hold on, man," pulls off the side of the road, takes a breather. We pull into a car's rest stop, and like took a nap for like 3 hours. It like scared him out of driving. Like there's no way we could sleep.
Sure.
He was just not driving no more.
Right.
After the retread hit the car for a minute.
Dang.
Like just the craziest trip ever. I hope that doesn't happen to you. Yeah, I mean, road trips with dads are awesome, man. That's an incredible time. I mean,
well, you know, especially because he's 27 now. You know, he's got his own house. You know, he's got his own life. It's not like when he was a kid. It's like, oh,
you can't car Griswold him.
Yeah, you don't get a choice when you're a kid about parental road trips.
Did you have the station wagon ever?
No.
You never had the station wagon with the kids in the back?
I never did the station wagon or the minivan. I was like, nah, I'm just not willing to give up my cool card like that.
The minivans look pretty serious to me, man. You can put a bike in the back of one pretty easy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm traveling around with the bike on the back of the car. The Henry's got it on there all the time now. So yeah, it's innovative what you can do with any of these cars nowadays. Your Prius, we're gonna take to Arizona here pretty soon.
Right. Yeah, because it's getting 51 miles to the gallon, dude.
Yeah. We could go there pretty quick, but if it's comfortable, why wouldn't we get 51 miles? It's already. We got to buy steaks when we get there. I'm looking for the steakhouse, man. I swear. We're not even going to walk after these classes. I'm talking about getting steak. We're going to be dead.
Oh, we'll be all right.
It's going to be great. Yeah. I'm taking this class even if I got a cast on my right shoulder. I'll take it left-handed if I have to. Right. I swear.
There you go.
I'm going to take it left if I've decided. Even left. Yeah. If I got to.
Well, one of the instructors doesn't have any legs. So, I mean, if he can do it,
I'll figure it out.
Sure can do it. Like,
yeah.
Because I would feel terrible if a guy with no leg was outperforming.
The reason I'm talking about the reason I'm talking about the right is I got news finally on the shoulder. You remember how I've been fucking around and not getting no information on the shoulder? Sure. So when did the Rona start? Like 3 months ago, 4 months ago?
The what?
The Rona.
It started in March.
Yeah, okay, so we'll say this is in March.
Yeah.
In March, I got this dude living here, good guy.
Yeah. And
he's just around too much, man. And eventually I just end up punching a table.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because I've lost so much weight and I'm like in the under 300s and I used to be huge. I don't know if I just raged so hard because I was so pissed off.
Right. Because
I have an extreme temper I'm always trying to handle. It's always an issue. Always. I got a bad temper. So, and I'm pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Most of the times. Like, I don't remember punching no shit like this. I remember exactly the last time I raged hard. It was when, and Beth saw it. Another story for a different day, but pretty interesting time when I realized she was really, really cool. And absolutely not. I couldn't freak her out. There's nothing I could do that could freak her out.
Nice.
Because most of the time people just run, and that's the last time you ever meet them.
Right.
And so, man, I punched this table, and it's just a direct punch on this table built by my buddy Mark Bedu, and he builds stuff really solid. And I punched it in the corner, and the table's not given. So I saw my hand collapse, my wrist collapse. I saw this whole thing shrink in, and I thought I snapped my wrist for sure.
Right.
Felt the elbow and felt the shoulder, and that was like March. So since then, you can sort of recover and do stuff, but I've always been gimpy. Can't really do nothing overhead too bad. I can move it, but no real pressure or nothing. My hand came back like a couple months later, so it wasn't smashed to bits.
Right.
And I'm thinking it's all healing, and then I have like some weird things that happen, like I'm riding my bike around in the living room, and I just brush the wall with my right arm, and it just jams it a little bit, and it just kills. I mean, dead. Right. So much pain. Or I sleep on it just a little funny, or I push my elbow into the mattress when I'm sleeping, just a little bit in a weird angle, and it's just insane pain, like wake up pain. Yeah. So, but you get used to it, right? And you're stupid. Just stupid is the point of this. So you're telling me every time I see him, like the shoulder's getting better, and then I bump it when I'm sleeping, and then I'm like, oh, I don't know what the fuck happened. It's
Yeah.
fucking dying.
Right.
And then I go to a class or 3. You know, I'm trying to go to your classes. It's like the number one priority for a long time.
Right.
I'm riding the bicycle all the time now. I can't go to class. The shoulder's jacked up to tits, but I can lock in and ride a bike for some reason. But I can't pull up on the bike.
Yeah.
So I got to figure out how to ride and get around and shit and ride a little more technical. Essentially, 3 weeks ago, I get the MRI. I don't get the information done. We go through 5 different appointments for the MRI.
Yeah.
It's my doctor's office is just slipping bad. If any of you are watching, I'm not putting a name out there. I know you know I got the podcast. If you're watching, stop. Just put me on a real appointment somewhere.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? It's fucking crazy. So I finally get the real appointment. They take the MRI. I can't even sit in the machine for 20 minutes, dude. To isolate it and not move it.
Yeah.
I didn't even tell you this, dude. I'm shaking in the machine. I'm like, I'm starting to have like a seizure on my toes and shit. And she's like, we gotta start this over again. And I'm like, listen, maybe we can put my hand inside my pants and I can grab my pants and anchor it down or something. Because I can't even like let it loose and free. I can't even do that for 20 minutes. And then she says, the aide goes, oh, you have a lot of fluid in there. There's a lot of stuff going on and there's a lot of fluid. So I know something's up.
Right.
Get the information yesterday. I got to go see a surgeon. The labrum, which is the cartilage all around the joint that holds the joint in, is just destroyed.
Wow.
So when I punch that table, it's a common injury with like baseball players, overhand rights.
Right. Yeah.
Overhand right injuries. So I just get it down. So that's the angle where it catches sometimes. Dude, it's just insane pain sometimes. And I've had a couple cortisone shots or one. No, nothing for pain or nothing. I take that anti-inflammatory for my foot in the morning, meloxicam, every day. Yeah. I came off that for a few days and it really started flaring and I got back on that. Right. So nothing's really changed medication-wise. But I think I'm going to end up having some surgery on it here soon. Which sucks because I was getting to the point where I was riding my bike like 3 times a day. Yeah. I mean, I was putting in some serious trail miles, and it's weird. You got the BJJ thing going 3 times a day. I get to the point where I'm doing 2 times a day on the bike every day, and I'm about to put in lunch, and I start taking this trail by the house, and I've talked about it a little bit on Facebook Live, and you've seen it. It's called Cibolo Creek, and it's between Universal City and Schertz. And it's a 4-mile section of creek that's dried up that goes between these 2 highways that has a little bit of like regular maintenance road trails that you could ride on any bike. And then it has some really serious primitive trails that's just creek bed and loose rocks. And when I went to buy my bike 3 months ago, I haven't rode since the 90s. I didn't even think I could get on a bike, Saad. Yeah. Let alone really ride a bike, right? So I get the bike like 3 months ago, and I buy a fat bike, and everyone doubts why I get the fat bike, because it's so odd. But I figure I'll have stability, and I just start riding, and riding, and riding. And I think in the last 3 months, I would guess I got about 200 miles on that bike. And 100 of them are creek miles. And the other day, I've been running it with my friend Kalish, who runs it on a gravel bike, and she's really talented on a bike. So she can do a lot of stuff, but she has to walk the main rocks. And we've done this creek run now like 2 times in its entirety, and it takes us like 3 hours to go 4 miles. It takes 3 hours to go 4 miles. So it's slow. It's like a 1/10 of a mile an hour or something. It's a slow run. You're going through rocks, and you're going through what I call the moon rock, which is basically creek riverbed. Yeah. So you walked it that one day, and to ride a bike on that's kind of crazy. Sure. And I'm handing on it on this fat bike, and it's got 4.5-inch wide tires, 27.5 inches big. It's huge. It's just a sick bike. And I'm riding the piss out of it and something about it's getting me strong. So I'm not lifting weights or nothing. I was training some with you, but that was only maybe 10 classes after the shoulder got hurt, maybe. We'll say 10 classes. Sure. Not a lot, but I've been doing this like twice a day, 3-4 days a week, easy.
And you're down to like 285, 287?
Like 285, 287.
Dude, that's insane.
So yeah, the weight loss is coming from like 615 years ago.
Right.
And 2 years ago to like this day, I was 445, 444.
Right.
So when I started talking to you like 18 months ago, I moved here a year ago. When you met me, I was maybe 400-ish, 385-ish, 365-ish, something like that, in that range.
Yeah, you was a lot bigger than you are now.
Yeah, I think I've lost
bigger.
I think I've lost at least 70, 80 pounds since I've been here.
Right.
Since in the last year, at least.
That's amazing.
Maybe even 100. It's been like 240 pounds, 220 pounds in 2 years.
Yeah, because like your weight loss journey is like it's like a book worthy. Like, you know, like you hear every once in a while like wild stories about somebody making that kind of weight loss, you know, from 600 pounds to where you're at now at 285. But like it's so rare. Like most people that are 600 pounds, they end up just dying a short life. Like they just there's no like happy story of like, oh, I used to be 600 pounds, but now I'm 285. Like that just doesn't happen. It's just so rare, and it's amazing that you did it.
It's a weird thing for me, man, because it's like I look back at like I'm 47, and like especially this year, and what I've done on the bike has been so fun,
Right.
so crazy. Like I've discovered the abandoned historical car wash, not car wash, drive-in. I found the craziest set of trails ever in the history of non-professional trails off a highway that no one's ever seen before. Filmed that. I've been in 3 different cemeteries that have been not available because they used to be on the creek and no one goes to the creek no more. I found that guy's whole entire plot of land with all of his stuff that has been abandoned for 15 years and put that on picture and showed stuff and corrals that were made the right way and old pole barns and I've discovered things on this creek that are just insane.
Right.
So this creek, this 3 miles I walked, and for my feet, Saad, what you don't know is I've had 5 foot rebuilds.
Right.
So I had 2 in elementary school, and then 3 in high school. So every step I take with these feet has never been easy since birth. So they've never worked right. It's never a normal. I walk like a penguin. My feet go out like that. I kind of have like a weird, like a sumo guy walk. That's how I walk all the time. And I never thought I would be a walker. But when my foot went down, and they were going to cut my foot off earlier this year in November, I had this hole in my foot when I first moved here. You remember? A year ago.
For sure.
I had this hole in my foot that wouldn't heal, and this hole was the product of me stepping in some glass. But what's happened is my foot has shifted over the years after all of the surgeries I've had. The contact points for all the fusions in my feet, the contact points where they went in and fused all these joints together, these 3 joints in my foot, all those points have crumbled down over the years, and my whole ankle structure has shifted down like 2, almost 3 inches.
Right.
So my heel work and all this is all down in the bottom of my foot. And when I stepped in the glass, it exposed my heel, which is supposed to be up here. It's really down here now, the spur, and it came out of this hole in my foot. And I went to work on this open wound for 3 months. I had it open all summer. Went to work had to quit working to get it closed. They thought my foot was infected. They thought they were gonna have to. They took me to an emergency MRI that day and explained to me they might be taking the leg off because there was no way it wouldn't be infected. Right. It had been open for like 4 months, and the bone had been exposed, and I'd just been treating it 2-3 times a day, and cleaning it and wearing like a sock and a shoe.
Yeah.
And it was never exposed, right? But it would never close because it was a hot spot on that bone, right? So that was my November. November through February, I laid down and got that fixed. I was in the cast, right? So in February, the last thing he said before the Rona, the doctor, was get a pair of boots. He didn't tell me what to do with the boots. He just said, get a pair of boots. I figured it wasn't cowboy boots. I figured it was something to support the foot. Right. So I bought 2 pair of hiking boots, and I started hiking that creek.
Nice.
The creek's totally changed my life.
Right.
What I thought would be changing my life was your class. and our friendship has blossomed through talking about the class, but really we've become friends with nothing to do with BJJ, really.
Sure.
It's all on the outside, sort of, and that's a periphery, right? But what's happened is I've turned into a dude that can ride a bicycle on this creek a half mile from my house, and I can't get off of it. So I just keep going to the creek. I'm addicted to the creek. There's something pulling me into that thing. Those caves, the rocks, the way the water comes in. I watched a whole cave system that's been empty, and people in the neighborhood that go down there say, I've never seen it this dry, ever. They all said it. I've never seen it this dry. I took all the pictures. I watched that fill up in 3 hours. The whole thing filled up 30 feet. That's how much water comes through that creek just on a good rain. It filled up the whole cave area. It was crazy. We were there the day before. It was dry. The next day it was full. It was only a 3 hour rain. So I've made it the whole way through that system. I can almost give sort of a tour because the other day I had a dude go with me. This is a crazy story. I was starting to tell you it, but this is what I was trying to get to. I'm on the trail the other day with the bike, my fat bike. And my buddy, who I've been inviting to go riding forever, decides to go for a ride. It's the first thing he's done since being off the run, meeting people. But we're going to be on the trail. What he has been doing is riding 3-4 days a week with his kids on trails by his house. He lives right down the street, like 30 minutes. He comes over with his bike, like a 1998 Mongoose, right? Full suspension bike. And I'm like, okay, at least you got full suspension. You're going to be able to bounce over these rocks pretty good. And we start riding. And this bike's super heavy, and he's not used to these rocks, and the rocks are like 5 inches, and no one's going to do well on 5-inch rocks unless you're used to them. And he drops the bike a couple times, and we do a lot of walking, and a little bit of riding and some walking, a little bit of riding and walking, and we get about 2.5 miles into the trip. Maybe, we'll say 2 hours. I don't even know how far. We'll say 2 hours into the trip, and he starts telling me he's having heat stroke. Now, this is a guy that runs marathons. He's in shape. He rides a bike 4 days a week. That's more than me. But he don't ride in this creek. And this creek, okay, so Texas right now, for instance, Saad will tell you, it's like 100 degrees outside. Feels like it's 112. Now imagine taking that and then dropping it down 60 feet into a creek that has no coverage when you're on the primitive side. It's an exposed riverbed. There's no shadow. There's no shade. Right. You have to go 15 minutes by bike to get to a plant that'll go over your head, and then you rest your bike and you drink a bottle of water. And then you go 15 minutes to the next plant. You know where it's at because you've been on it enough. And you go, dude, it got scary, dude. We're down in this trail. We're in the trail. He's overheating bad. He's getting dizzy. We get to a point where I go to a part of the trail that has water, and I get him off. And I get him on the side, and he starts hucking. He starts blowing chunks, man. It's bad. And I start talking about rescue and coming up on the universal side. And he's like, I just had a pot of coffee. I'm going to be fine. And I'm like, okay, so you know yourself pretty good. You had too much coffee. That's cool. Drink some water. He's like, I can't really drink. And I'm like, okay. And then we got his feet in the water. And and then he started, and I knew he would cool down. And he did. And then we got his head covered up, and we got him in some water on his back of his neck, and I got him over to some shade, and we sat in the shade for like an hour, half hour, got some serious water in us, recouped a little bit, rode back up the trail, found the quickest area I could get out without going through too many thorns, and actually duck out without dying. Because I know there's a trailhead back about a mile that we can stay at this park and rest. Get to the park, take another hour off, recoup him with water, hydrate again. We're out of water, man. I've been out. He's now out of his. We have 2 miles to go. He doesn't want me to call nobody. He's feeling better. We get on the side of the road. We ride it back. Dude, it was a 5-hour ride that was supposed to be 3, and we never even got but like maybe 6/10 of the way. Like maybe 70% of the ride, tops. We never got past 70% of the ride. It was a 5-hour ride. It was insane. Then we came home, got in the AC, and he was fine. He drank some more waters, hung out a half hour, and went home. So we were never really in heat stroke because we took our time and spent 2 hours making sure he wasn't in heat stroke.
Right.
Makes sense.
Sure.
Drinking, and we brought like 10 liters of water with us, so we had plenty. But man, it got scary, bro. So then the next week after that, I spent like 3 times on the trail, finding the exits on the left and rights that you can just get out past people's houses and stuff, like the points you wouldn't normally ever take, but that are exit points. That trail is actually serious. The heat factor down there, I would like to know what it is, but you're instantly soaked just walking it. It's making me I think it's making me really strong, and I think the bike thing ain't going nowhere, man. I see myself riding down to like the 230 range, so I'm like 287 now, and I feel pretty lean, but I got a lot of fat on me still, and if I'm trying to get to a 32 waist, which is about what I want, even if it's all skin, I don't give a shit what I look like. But I do want to be really lean one day, and I'm going to gift myself a bike about 250, another bike, so that I'm never down a bike. I've been down a bike 4 days. It can't happen. It's just not happening. Does that make sense? And even if I get the shoulder surgery, which I know the labrum's torn, is probably going to be a surgery, I'll be able to get back on it in 6 months and do BJJ in 6 months to a year. A year for anything serious. Right. They say a year recovery and 6 months for nothing too serious. So I should be okay, man. Sure. And I'm loving the bike, and I'm loving riding, and I can't tell you how. I was going to talk to you about this a little bit if you wanted to. I mean, just your mug brings it up. I mean, how sweet is this state? I mean,
Texas is awesome. Yeah, like this one. I found this I was on the Base Exchange, and I found this coffee cup. You know, it's got Texas on it, some cowboy boots. You know, of course, Texas Ranger badge, horseshoe, a longhorn skull, and then pistol handle. I was like, man, this is Texas, because I love Texas.
When did you realize it? How did you realize it at first? Because I can tell you where I did.
Because I was a military brat growing up as a kid, so I was always moving. So I never had a hometown. And then I joined the Navy at 17, and then I spent 33 years in the Navy. In the Navy, every 3 years, sometimes every 2, they moved me someplace else. You know, so I lived all around the world and across the country. And Sway and I, the Navy sent us here to go to Baylor University to get my master's degree. And it was actually our first time in Texas. At least mine. Sway actually went to boot camp here in Texas, she went to some school because she was in the Army, so it wasn't boot camp.
But some sort of
training. She went to some training here in Texas, so she had been here before. So
was it this area?
See, it was before I met her, so I think it was San Antonio.
It makes sense with all the bases.
She did say she went to Fort Sam. I try to remember the story, but like sometimes
it's 52 guys.
And then plus sometimes your wife talks and you're like, yeah, I'm listening, and then.
And hold on, you're really deaf too, right? Because like we have selective hard of hearing.
The deaf is you don't hear from either ear. Hard of hearing is you have a hearing loss in one ear or both, but deaf and hard of hearing are two different things.
See, my left ear's dead. Right. My right ear works pretty good. But if I ever acted like I didn't hear something, which I know what you mean by the selective hearing, every married guy knows that. Right. So I just say it was on my left side. Yeah. So it built in. Get out of jail free.
So like one day I was just geeking out, drinking coffee, and Sway's like, you haven't listened to a word I said, have you? And I thought, that's a weird way to start a conversation.
That's a good way to do it. Did you actually say it or did you think it?
I said it. I thought it was funny.
That is a good one right there, son. That is a good one right there.
For a while. And I thought, that Sway actually got me a coffee cup one time. It's called Dad Jokes, because when you get old as a parent, you have corny jokes. And
well, that's just an easy one, right? I remember making that joke when I was 12. My buddy's grandparents, Pop and Nan, and Nan never stopped talking. I mean, everybody, I was just talking, super sweet lady, right? Sure. And Pop had his earbuds on, right, and headphones, like the old school hearing aid. He's a mechanic, real cool dude, Pop. And one day I'm talking to Pop, and he can hear everything I'm saying, right? And one day he's in the kitchen, and she starts talking, and Dan starts talking, and Pop just walks right by her, goes through the door, and I go, And I realized what he did, right? I was like 12. I knew exactly what he did, right? And so this is like Doc Barnes' parents, right? So Doc Barnes one day is saying something, and I go, yeah, Pops is, just decides to turn his hearing aid off or on depending on who's in the room. I go, that's what he does. He turns the hearing aid off when he sees his wife. And, Doc Barnes almost spit his drink up because he didn't realize what was going down. And I was like, well, Pops just turns that shit off. Sure. He just he can't hear nothing when she's in the room. He's like, I didn't hear nothing. I'm not. Check out time. Right. So I mean, how long you been married, Saad?
Me and Sway have been married 12 years now.
I think one of the good things is we just know for sure that neither one of our wives are watching this. There's almost no way.
Sure.
There's almost no way.
If she was watching it, she would have a number of issues of the things I've said over the past 15 episodes.
Yeah. It's probably.
So like anytime I'm like, oh, did you watch the podcast? Yeah.
You know how me and Beth started arguing the first second we met you and Sway at the restaurant, and I thought that you might think we were lunatics. You might not know I had that thought. Did you know I had that thought?
No.
First time I meet Saad, I don't know if I'm at him, man. We've been on the phone forever. Sure. We haven't even met or nothing. Right. We ended up going to this serious sick restaurant for meat. I'm in the middle of the keto thing, and Saad's like, I got the place. And Saad eats salads. So, but this place has the sickest salad bar in the world. Yeah, what's the name of the place?
Chamagaucha Steakhouse.
Chamagaucha Steakhouse. So this is world class 5-star, best steakhouse you'll ever go to, Brazilian style. You ain't finding better. Tell me if you do. Yeah. Well, we want to know. We'll go to it if there's better.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've been all over the world, and I've been to Brazil and eaten at Brazilian steakhouses.
Yeah.
Nobody's close to Chamagaucha.
No one even touches it. Even in fact, there's a competitor next door that will tell you we don't even touch it.
Right.
All we do is pick up their side business because they're so overflowing busy.
Absolutely.
And we're literally next door.
Right.
And they're happy with that. They tell you that when you come in the door. We take their side flow every day, all day long, and they do. So, and the reason I know that is I couldn't get in the Chamagaucha, and I went to the one next door. It's literally half a mile down the road. Right. So me and Saad meet. Me and Beth sit down, and me and Beth are two very strong people that met each other late in age. I think I was 47, she was 46 or 45, something like that. We're super close in age, a year off or so. A year, right? So I was 47, she was 46. She has her own house, own life, good job. I got my own house, own life, good job. We meet each other, and Beth is breaking me down the instant I meet her. I mean, she's putting holes in theories, and just a funny chick, and super smart, and really got my heart instantly, right? And I started hanging out with her as much as I could, and sort of a different story, but me and Beth are always arguing. We're always pushing each other's point, or not necessarily good at giving, or at least I am. I'm always arguing. I mean, I'm always pushing my point and trying to make sure I'm advocating, because I've had crappy relationships where I'm not saying what I think I need to say and not being myself, and I'm always trying to not do that now. I'm trying to be me as much as I can be, you know what I mean? So Beth kind of has to deal with that, and I'm sort of an ass, and she always has her point, and she's, fires back and puts me in my place in a second, and so me and her started arguing the second me and you met, and I'm like, oh my God, I just meet Saad and Sway, and they're going to think we're lunatics, and then, they started jabbing back and forth, and next thing you know, we're all having a good time, and it's been going on ever since. So the wife contact's interesting, because I was going to have our wives talk to each other to see if we were, or where we were going to dinner tonight. It's always easier.
in Florida right now.
Oh, okay, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about it. Maybe
when she's here, I can do whatever.
Well, I know that, but I'm talking about dinner-wise. I'm talking about dinner-wise. I'm not trying to get you in no more trouble. One of your people are going to say, hey, Sway, you might want to watch that. Then you're going to have a notice.
It's okay.
Maybe a little someone to get you on the dark side of somebody there. A little hater, maybe. Very cool. Yes, man. So, a lot going on, man. The shoulder's down. You're going to a tournament. Right. This is basically, been a little recap. Anything you've been thinking about, man?
I know, our last podcast, we talked about our thoughts on whether you should join a civilian militia or not.
Oh man, it's so crazy what's happened.
Of course, if you watch the last podcast, I'm like, no, don't do it.
Don't do it.
But if you do it, go in with your eyes wide open.
And what will happen?
The irony is, you get this response. And, what's amazing when I watch the videos, whether you agree with the rioters or whether you agree with the young man doing his self-defense, or whether it was self-defense, it's all going to come out in courts. And I'm not going to try to determine whether he was in the right or wrong. But what I will say is that kid had a skill set. Like, you know, me and Stomp, in a number of the videos, we've advocated training. Whether you're training martial arts, training with your handgun, training with your rifle. And I was quite impressed that that this young 17-year-old kid with, you know, I don't know what his training background is, but he ended up shooting one guy, and then he's running down the street.
So he shot that guy 5 times, and he hit him all 5 times in
Yeah,
sort of a crowd.
He's being chased, and he's running down the street. He gets knocked over from behind, and then one guy tries to stomp him, and then another guy tries to do something,
and then a skateboard.
And then one guy is actually pulling a gun on him, and
running him down with a gun, Glock in his hand.
Yeah, so I was totally impressed that he, not only did he shoot and successfully defend himself in a crazy scenario, he didn't, you know, without panicking. Even, like, I can tell you honestly, after 33 years in the Navy, if I was running down the street with a rifle and somebody knocked me over from behind, and then as I roll, I look up and another guy is jumping to stomp his foot into my head, and then
one's hitting him with a skateboard,
and then another guy's
hitting him with a skateboard. Hits him,
and then he shoots a guy, and then another guy is coming at him with a pistol, and he shoots that guy's arm off. But it was so
fast.
Yeah, like his reaction, like this isn't like whoever trained this kid. Like this kid knew what he was doing. Like,
it's so strange too, man, because when you look at the facts of the case that have come out since it, he was there helping clean up some graffiti after he was like a lifeguard, and then he this is what seems to have happened. I'm not going to call myself an expert on this at all.
Sure.
And then he's assisting a local business owner who lost 3 out of 4 businesses with a friend's gun.
Right.
So it's not his gun.
Yeah.
It's not his rifle.
Right.
He runs down. He shoots one guy 5 times. They think it's in the head. Turns out it's everywhere else too. It's a graze wound off the head. They treat the head. He's dying out from everything else.
Right.
Hits that guy 5 times. They chase him down the street. Somebody punches him in the back of the head. He loses his footing. Goes down surrounded.
Yeah.
This is the case for a sling at best.
Sure.
There's the sling saved his ass, and that kid put rounds on fire. And there's no looking down the sight. There was no aiming.
Yeah.
This is shooting because you shot him.
And then what was?
And he backed off the first target when the guy came up.
Right.
The dude backed off and then came at him again.
Right.
Then he shot him.
And
he waited. It was perfect in a lot of ways.
What was even more impressive, like besides hitting his targets, is, and like I said, I'm not following this whole story, but I haven't seen any reports of him hitting unintended targets.
No, he didn't.
Like everybody he hit,
every round was accounted for.
You know, and like where even an older person with experience, as he's shooting, you know how easy it would have been to just panic and start shooting.
He was very
into the
selective.
crowd. You know that's
chasing him.
Because you're talking about he's got 30 rounds in his magazine. I don't know what other magazines he had with him, but he could have fired off 30 rounds into that crowd, and he had the gun control to hit his intended targets and not hit anybody with, you know, in the military we'll call it friendly fire. He didn't hit any accidental targets.
Every round was accounted for.
Yeah. Which is insane.
Insane.
Like, I can tell you, in the military,
there's no way.
We don't have that high rate of not hitting our unintended targets. Like, his response was amazing. And I hope that, you know, like, there's some kind of investigative reporting to show, like, who trained this kid? Like, he didn't just randomly pick up an AR-15 without knowing what to do with it and respond the way he did. Like, it was very impressive what he did.
You know what's crazy about this? The whole situation, even more than what the kid did, is the situation the kid's in. So we said last week, don't even put yourself in this situation.
Right. Sure.
Maybe you go with a group of 5 friends.
Right.
Maybe that kid did go with a group of 5 friends. It seems like maybe he did.
Yeah.
It seems like they were trained.
Right.
So what's crazy is, I look back at it and think, I never even thought about it that way until right now. I look back at it and think I would have never been there at 17. What the hell is he doing? But you know, the first Patriots were 17.
Sure.
And taking care of a problem for the police that are not stepping in.
And the irony is, I joined the U.S. Navy in February 1986, and I was 17 years old. And they gave me a rifle. You know, so people are like, well, why would that kid have a rifle?
So
at 17?
all my critiques can be destroyed with the
Like,
police ain't doing anything.
Right. If the police ain't doing anything.
If they're not doing nothing, what is he supposed to do?
And this kid, you know, like when I was 17, the U.S. military gave me a weapon. You know, in every war, where we talk about Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, Vietnam, World War II, World War I, War of 1812, Revolutionary War, Civil War, we've put rifles in people's hands that are 17 and younger. So it's not like this is unheard of, because you know, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, like who would give a AR-15, you know, which is just the military equivalent would be an M4, to a 17-year-old? Well, the United States military would. That's who would. You know, that's what we do. Like we literally, as we speak, there's a 17-year-old somewhere in the world, in the Army, Navy, Air Force,
and you're finding out that there's
holding a rifle.
There's one in many, or Wisconsin, that can do it too, and there's probably a zillion others in Wisconsin and Georgia and Texas and Louisiana and the states where people are hunters and know how to shoot. And it's getting really weird, because now you're putting people in situations where they sort of are not being forced to do anything.
Right. Well, they are, because, you know, like, and to bring up that point is, I can talk about it as a small business owner, because this is where, because sometimes I think people aren't realizing why these small businesses are either arming themselves or paying somebody. You know, because I'd be interested to know, did that business pay that kid and his mom and whoever else to come protect his business? And you might say, well, why would he do that to protect his business? And I can tell you as a small business owner why he would do it. Like, if you loot Target and burn it to the ground, or Best Buy, or Macy's, or, you know, the Tesla dealership, they're well insured. They're going to be okay. You know, like, they're going to replace it all. But keep in mind, these riots and looting happened after an unprecedented shutdown of all businesses. Like, my business was closed for 2 months, where I had no income coming in, but I still have to pay the mortgage on the house I live. Still got to pay my car payments. And on the business, still had to pay, like, I pay like $3,000 a month for where I keep my business. That landlord still wanted his money.
Yeah,
like,
that landlord still had his property taxes.
Right, because he still had.
He has bills.
He may have a loan that enabled him to buy that property. So you go down that rabbit hole. There's still bills to pay. And now for 2 months in Texas, we made $0. But there was still those expenses. Those expenses didn't go away. The government didn't tell people, okay, all mortgages are frozen. You know. It was like, no. Next thing, as a small business owner, you don't get unemployment insurance. You know, people are like, oh, well, you know, you get unemployment insurance. No, my employees would get unemployment insurance. The small business owner does not get unemployment insurance. So you are totally losing. The only thing the government gave me was that $1,200 stimulus check,
right,
which is the same $1,200 people got who still had their jobs. So you go down that rabbit hole. You ain't got no income coming in. You got bills that got to be paid. Your mortgage and your, you know, like wherever you live, the rent for wherever your business is. You know, if you had a business loan, you know, those payments are still due. You know, nothing went away. And so all your expenses. So then you start making choices. Like, what things do I not pay for? Just like a person who loses their job, they might continue to pay for the car, but will they continue to pay for the car insurance? Maybe not. Same thing with business. Every month I pay a little over $200 a month for business insurance. So if somebody burns my business to the ground with all the supplies and inventory in there, I'm covered. But what happens to those businesses? And this is just Texas. You know, Texas was closed for 2 months. California's still closed.
Yeah.
It's 6-7 months into it,
And
they're still closed.
And they're going until January.
I don't know what Wisconsin was doing and what these other states are doing. But, so what about the small business owner? Whether he owns a car lot, whether he owns a store,
Or he's
whatever
20,
his
or he's
business is.
20, he's young, and that's everything.
And this is his life savings to
Yeah.
open this business. This is his sole source of income. And he or she had to make a decision not to pay for the insurance this month. And now you loot and burn his business to the ground. You just sent him to bankruptcy. You just sent to ashes this person's life dream of opening and running their own business.
For silliness.
And
Temper tantrums.
so when people are
Bullshit.
surprised, like, why would a business owner, pay armed people to protect his business? Well, you're getting ready to steal his dream from him.
Yeah, I was talking to you
Right.
about that like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Like armed security is going to be a huge thing.
Sure.
To get
Right.
to get verified and certified in as many things as possible, and to become a trainer right now is
Right.
very lucrative. I bet.
Yeah.
There's no reason you couldn't make a lot of money teaching people how to shoot pistols and AK-47s and shotguns.
And that's what people don't realize when they say things like, oh, well, we could just do away with the police. We'll do community policing. Or, what'll happen is...
How's that working?
It's like here in San Antonio, like probably the most expensive neighborhood in San Antonio is called the Dominion. $1 million houses out there. And then there's other expensive neighborhoods. You can rest assured, you do away with the police, you won't be looting those neighborhoods because those neighborhoods will hire their own private security.
Right.
And they'll be well armed and you won't be looting the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So the people that will be victimized are the folks that won't be able to afford it. Like you won't be able to continue to loot Target or Best Buy or Walmart. They'll get their own private security too.
Sure.
Armed private security that will stop that. And then, you leave the rest of us to our own
And
devices.
insurance is written up where the insurance company wins no matter what.
Sure.
So they're not going to
Right.
give you what you think you're getting.
Right.
It's never going to be a full payout from what I understand.
Sure.
And the dollar and time investment and build-in investment, I think I've rebuilt my store 5 times now,
Right.
6 times, almost 6 times. So it's just a room in a house, but
Sure.
you get better at it every time.
Yeah.
And it gets a little nicer, and you move to a different house and you do it again. And I, even this little one room is effort. It's thousands and thousands
Absolutely.
of dollars.
Yeah. And the insurance company
Ain't
is
doing
not
it.
going to give you 100%.
No.
You may know that, that knife made by that collector, that knife maker is worth $500.
Yeah.
But the insurance company might be like,
Yeah.
well, no, I think it's
That's a used knife.
$200 or
Yeah, this is a $1,400 knife.
Yeah, right.
Used, it may be or may not be.
So if somebody comes in and steals all your knives,
Yeah.
all your guns,
Yeah.
you're not going to be 100%
No
made
way.
whole.
And they can't rebuild, like, you can't rebuild and put the time into having, like, a guy like Chase build a gun where I spent
Right.
4 years to get it.
Right. Yeah.
I spent 4 years waiting for a build from this guy. So now you're in the 4-year waits, which isn't the normal, but it was back in the day.
Yeah.
And if you want the gun, that's what you're going to do, man. So now you have like a whole entire hobby, investment. Your life turns into this, man. Your life turns into it.
Absolutely.
It's like your hobby. It's like when I talk about my bike, it's like my side girl, right?
Right.
I talk about my bike in reference.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I'm enjoying it so much. Like these guns, I enjoy. We can't find ammo no more, so I can't shoot the way we were doing, you
Right.
know? So that's kind of like, I'm only doing the shotgun now. It's so much fun.
Nice.
Oh my God. I can find shotgun ammo. But my point is, it turns into like more than a business.
Right.
It's like, you know me as Stomp.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be from Stomping You Customs if it wasn't for the custom knives.
Right.
I would just
Yeah.
be Bob.
Yeah. So people are going to go to extreme measures to protect their property. And,
It sucks. It's a really fucked up situation. It's a bad place we're in
you've
right
got
now.
these businesses that are in a horrible position, and then you've got rioters and looters, and then you've got people that are willing to be paid to come protect those businesses, and you got city governments that are determining, okay, the police aren't going to protect the businesses, and they've done that in a number of cities. Like, no.
Yeah,
We're not going to
this
intervene
anymore.
We're going to let them do whatever they want.
Really weird.
And then that makes people make difficult decisions. And so it goes back to last week. I would not be in the position that young man was in.
No way.
The other young folks, like I understand the business owner why he wanted people there.
Sure.
I understand, people, want to help.
Just because we wouldn't do it doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's people that are more than willing to do it.
That's why we're talking about
it.
it. That's why we're saying don't do it.
Right.
It's sort of like really weird how that we we didn't predict there was going to be a shooting somewhere, but we said people are being stretched out to the limit where you we were talking about it in cars where you got to have a gun in your car. You got to be ready in case you get stopped on the highway. That's still going on. We're talking about this months now. This is 3 months we're into this. It's not ending. It's going to end maybe November 4th or something after the election, maybe.
Get worse.
COVID or Trump wins. It might be insane.
But either side wins. I think it's
going to be bad.
Be bad, but I think if it seems most of the rioters.
But just say the Democrat cities. There's shut down Democrat cities, not using the cops to their advantage. Where you could, in the cities that want to shut it down, with the cops do in a second. The second you go hard, they shut down, and there's no more riots. And some people are doing it, and some people aren't. I mean, I don't lean one way or the other, but I am leaning one way this time. There's only one way to lean. I can't go with blame the other guy for the riots when it's all in the same 13 cities. Yeah. They're all Democrat cities. I mean, we don't try to go political, but fuck it, might as well just say it. It's all Democrat-run cities. The majority.
As long as those governments continue to tell their police to stand down,
dude, people are gonna stand up.
Yeah, and so it's gonna be bad outcomes. Like it's just not.
It's not. It's really weird right now.
I don't buy anybody, trying to say, there's gonna be another civil war. There's not. But what is gonna happen is you're gonna see more incidents like this Kenosha incident, where an armed person is gonna shoot people, and then I think in Portland this week. An armed guy
a whole different thing.
I think an Antifa guy,
just straight up killed a guy.
Saw a Trump guy, shot him in the head, killed him.
Yeah, just dead.
It's like, wow. So I think, November could be a really crazy time.
Yeah, man. Don't go to the cities, man. Saad, remember how I'm talking about that? Man, don't go. What's the point of going into San Antonio? There's no real reason other than hit a restaurant and call it a day. But I mean, it's.
I'm going to stay home with my family and keep them protected.
Maybe a restaurant, but I mean, that's it. I haven't gone into the airport. That's it. I'm not going anywhere like that. I like being out in the country. See, we're out 30 minutes outside of anything serious.
Yeah.
And we have your son to tell us if there's any heat or anything. We know people. Right. Like, there's always somebody in a city council somewhere around us. And we're respectable. We really, I am a respectable person in San Antonio, in Schertz, Texas. Respectable.
And that.
Saad just lived a glorious life.
I heard a politician the other day say, if it was Hillary Clinton, she said, if Biden loses, he shouldn't concede no matter what. Oh, yes, you should. Like if the if the electoral college and the election happens and it shows that, no, you lost, if you say, I'm not going to succeed, I'm not going to accept the results, now, things could really get crazy. So it's I would not join a militia, but I would keep myself armed. Keep myself protected.
Definitely go shoot. Get the
ammo you can. Stay away from the major cities. If you can hang out in the urban areas. In the country, you got family out in the country.
Dude, if you're thinking about moving out of the city, just do it. I mean, I would not want to be there right now, man. Not for nothing. Not me. Not me.
Or live in a place like Texas that allows you to protect yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, at least if you're gonna be in the city, at least be able to carry.
Right. It's okay.
But even in Texas, you gotta have a concealed carry, so that then you gotta take it up a step. Then maybe you're more comfortable.
You only have to have a license to carry
on your
when it's outside your home. Inside your home, you can have your weapons.
Sure. But I'm talking about
that's what you need to inside your home, inside your car, and inside your business. Even without a license to carry, you don't need it for those 3 places. You need a license to carry to go. To walk around with your weapon or go to other places. But in those 3 locations, whether it's in your car, in your business, or in your home. And I would highly recommend people,
take one in your car. Yeah, it's a weird world, man. Strange world. It's becoming way too easy to predict it, really. Yeah. And we're predicting the most madness you could ever imagine.
And people are just talking nonsense. It's like, but you see it out on the streets, and these bad things are happening, and at some point, you're going to start seeing citizens open firing on each other like you're seeing so far, and I think it's only going to get worse before it gets fixed.
Yeah, I have no idea how this gets fixed, man.
Yeah, I don't.
You got to start looking at everybody as
Right.
a human. I mean,
Right.
first off, there's all kinds of wrong sides. There's
Sure.
there's no right side. There's two halves. Somebody's wrong on both sides.
Yeah.
It's impossible to cover every angle.
Right.
To make an argument means to have all the angles covered, right? You got to be able to cover the whole spectrum. So this two-party system seems to be really divisive right now.
Yeah.
And I understand people don't like the T-Man because he's fucking rude as shit. But that doesn't matter to a degree. It doesn't mean you get to cry for 4 fucking years. It doesn't mean you get to whine about it. It is what it is.
Well, I think we need to move away from dehumanizing language.
Anybody.
And throughout the history, when we go to war, you can look at any war we've ever had, there's always a derogatory nickname for the enemy. And that nickname comes up in part because it makes it easier to kill that person. Because you're dehumanizing them. You're not, it's not a person, it's some Nazi, and you hear that language going back and forth amongst Americans, seems like the conservatives are calling the Democrats either liberals or commies, and the Democrats or liberals are calling the conservatives fascist or Nazis, and it's
or racist.
Yeah, so we've gotten into name calling, and once you start throwing those names out there, you're starting to dehumanize people. It's like, no, I'm not looking at you as a fellow American or as a fellow human. You're this nasty thing, and the world would be better without you. And then once those processes start happening, it becomes easy to say.
We've lost our manners.
Next thing you know, it's like,
we've lost
we're
our
killing each other.
We've lost our manners.
Yeah, sure.
We've lost our base manners.
Right.
Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it.
Right.
That's
a novel concept, because we used to say that. Like,
yeah.
We'd be like, or like we'd say, hey, in polite company, don't discuss religion and politics. But
it's interesting,
it's
right? Those wives' tales, right? My mom would always say every time, I'm talking until I was 40, did you say please and thank you?
Right.
Right?
Yeah, just be nice.
Did you say please and thank you? I'm 40. I'm like, Mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a base model. Like, maybe there's no more grandparents knocking in that, because that's a grandparent thing.
Right.
That's like an elder thing. Maybe the structure of society is broken down so far that you don't even have third generations that are reminding the third generation to do it.
Like, I went to the store, took Samara to a restaurant, and Samara's my 13-year-old daughter. So since my wife's out of town, me and my daughter were just hanging out with the dogs. And as we're going into the restaurant, guys coming out, we bump into each other. I think it was his fault that he wasn't looking where he was going. He bumped into me, but I could have done a better job avoiding it. But what did I do? I mean, I trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I could have just kicked his ass. But instead, I said, man, excuse me, dude, I'm sorry. I don't think it was my fault that we bumped, but I just said I'm sorry because, dude, I'm not trying to beat the guy up. And plus, maybe it was my fault. I'm not positive.
That's basic interaction.
Yeah, it's like, if I bump into you, it's like, man, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. If I cut you off in traffic, dude, I'm sorry.
People are really tense nowadays.
Instead of like, oh, let me give you the bird the whole way down the road. You're like, really?
I got a rage issue sometimes, but I try to address it, but it's usually about specific incidences. It's not like in general. In general, I try to be like a pretty fun dude.
Yeah, you're a nice person.
Yeah. Like, I try to be like.
That's why I hang out with you.
Yeah.
Like, if he was a jerk, I'd be like, no, dude.
Well, I think that's the key to it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's why that's how you start, right? And then you realize you have stuff in common. Then you realize we're learning from each other and we're having fun, and it's easy to develop the relationship. But it all starts because we're able to talk at a base root level. It's like the basic communication with a student, right? I can't look at the student and be upset with the student and then expect the student to be anything but upset with me.
Sure.
So because they're reactionary, right? They're reacting to what I do. I'm the dude in the lead. So I'm coming out as an ass. If I'm coming out as an ass and aggressive, what am I gonna get?
They're gonna return.
I'm gonna get it, man. So that's what I'm expecting to get back. So as a teacher, I got to check myself all the time and see how I'm talking to people. And as an employee, I got to do that, and people got to do that with other people. I mean, you don't like you said, you might have thought you could kick that dude ass, but maybe he could destroy you.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe he punched you one time in the nose and just leveled you.
Sure.
And he's having a bad day, and that's somebody you never knew, right? You don't know who's out there.
Right. Or just like in the Wisconsin, the first guy that got killed by the 17-year-old, they had found a video of him where he had confronted the armed guys, and he's like, shoot me.
Yeah.
You know, like he's calling their bluff, like, I don't think you'll shoot me. And unfortunately, he called the bluff on the wrong guy, because that 17-year-old was like, oh, I'm going to put a bullet in you.
Yeah,
you know, so
if it's, dude, be
and
nice.
I had said the facts will come out later, but like, in his mind, to tell armed people, shoot me, like, he must have believed they would not. Like, I mean, if I thought you was going to shoot me, I'll be damned if I'd be like, shoot me, 'cause I'm not trying to die today.
It's just a really basic like interaction. It's like, it's like
what could you be thinking to say something like that? Like,
dude, lack of respect for your own life, or
Yeah.
and respect
or you didn't
for
believe that guy would be that serious.
yeah.
Like,
dude, you're scaring the piss out of somebody.
if I see a guy standing there with a gun, I'm taking the assumption, I'm gonna go ahead and assume you'll shoot me.
And it's
I won't call you out on it. Like,
no,
shoot me. No, because I'm afraid you might actually do it.
no, I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
Dude, that's why the gun range is really respectful. Everyone's really nice.
Everybody's armed. Yeah.
Everyone's really cool at the range.
Yeah, like, you know, when the range guy comes by and says, hey, you know, Larry comes by, he's like, Saad, you're shooting too fast. Okay, cool. You know, because I'm armed, he's armed.
Yeah. Yeah,
We're
Larry's
both
cool.
skilled. We know what we're doing.
There's a rule right next to my head that says no more than one round per second.
Yeah.
That happens.
And we're both very respectful to each other.
Yeah.
You know, he's nice to me, I'm nice to him back.
I swear, Larry has said that to me like almost like 5-6 weeks in a row before, and it's the same thing. He doesn't come and yell at me about it.
Yeah.
He knows I do it. It's just you're not trying to do it.
Right.
So he comes over and nips it in the bud before I do it more.
Right.
Because we're having so much fun. No one's counting 1 second, 2 seconds,
Sure.
3 seconds.
Right.
But when we go over to the pistol range, he slows down nothing.
Right.
We can shoot as fast as it's a safety protocol on the range.
Yeah.
You can do this here, you can't do it here. So everyone follows the rules real well at the range. Everyone just needs to follow the basic rules of life, man. Just be nice.
Yeah.
Be nice to people, man. Everyone's trying to get it. It's a really hard time.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to put your hard time on nobody else right now, right?
And I agree. You know, like there's people that are losing their homes, losing their possessions. They can't work. You know, there's a lot of stress. There's fear of disease. There's fear of so many things. And you know, like sometimes empathy is a very wonderful tool. Like just maybe if I don't have to agree with whatever you feel is causing you stress. I don't have to agree that that's a stressor. I just need to be empathetic to the fact that for you, that's a stressor. You know, whatever it is, you know, like...
You don't have to understand it.
Yeah, I don't have to understand. You know,
but it's
like,
hard.
You don't need to tell somebody that's, you know, depressed, just get over it. You know, it's just not how it works.
Right.
Just like telling somebody that, you know, abuses alcohol, just stop drinking.
Yeah,
it's a little bit more complicated than that.
It really is.
So have some empathy, you know.
And hey, by the way, man, we'll close it on that. This month will be eight years for me, man.
Congratulations, brother.
8
That's
years.
What's up,
Isn't that crazy?
That is. 8 years sober.
And just a little like ringer. I haven't talked too much about the alcoholism, but there is no any of this without me stopping the alcohol. There's no me knowing Beth. There's no me still being alive. There's none. There's none of this. Able to kick sugar and lose several hundred pounds.
There's amazing.
The alcohol is the biggest thing. The biggest thing I ever beat. My biggest foe. Mm-hmm. To me, I look at it like a religion. Like it is the devil to me. Mm-hmm. There is a devil in my life, and it's booze, man, and sugar in general.
Yeah.
So I have to be really careful about it and be aware. And I think it's just a good place to put it off. I mean, just be nice to people. Don't. If you are drinking too much right now, understand you can get a hold of me in any way you can find. And I talk to a lot of people about drinking. I talk to a lot of people about weight loss. I talk to a lot of people about this stuff. You can find me on Facebook Messenger. You can call Saad if you want to talk to Saad. Yeah. Saad deals with people changing their lives every day of his life. Every day someone's changing there's nobody in there not changing their life at Saad's place. So we're kind of in that business of trying to bring people up a little bit and trying to keep ourselves up. And I'm trying to be as optimal as possible, and you're trying to be as optimal as possible. And
let me give a plug to this shirt. I just got it in the mail today. It's from I think it's called the Till Valhalla Project.
Okay, Till Valhalla Project.
They're a charity. They made this shirt, and it says, you know, basically live a life that's worthy of their sacrifice. And then it's got the rifle
that's
with the
cool,
boots,
man.
which is customary. With the helmet goes over the rifle and the boots. You know, when we lose one of our military personnel in combat. So I think, you know, live a life that's worthy of their sacrifice. There's a lot of people that have made sacrifices to get us to this point that we are. You know, whether it was your parents, you know, whether it's the military, you know, civil rights leaders. A lot of people made sacrifices to get us here. And, you know, I think we should live a life that's worthy of their sacrifice. And this Till Valhalla project, I'm not that familiar with them, but I saw the shirt. I loved it. They sent it to me, and
That's
then
awesome.
I read up on them. Their charity, what they do is for every military member that dies in combat, they 100% they cover the cost to present a plaque to the family with that military member's name, and they present it to the family. It's a nice plaque, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then they donate 20% of all their proceeds to Mission 22, which is a charity that brings attention to the idea is that data shows that 22 veterans every day commit suicide. And Mission 22, that is a charity that's dedicated to trying to combat veteran suicide and bring attention to that, to bring more help to those veterans that are struggling because they have seen things and experienced things that you know, leaves them with demons that haunt them for life. And sometimes suicide is the only option that they think they have. And if we truly support the troops, we need to support them after the war and support them as they're suffering and trying to overcome these obstacles and these demons that they have that are continuing to haunt them, you know, from these wars. And so, yeah, I like it. Till Valhalla project. Cool shirt.
I'll let you close it down, Saad.
Cool. All right. Till next week. We'll see you.
All right. Stomp strong, guys. Have a great week.